Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me for the fundraising strategy webinar for the upcoming Gives Challenge. Going to take a minute or two while we see our participant number climb. We have quite a few people that registered today, so I'm really excited for our conversation. Before we get started, I'll do just our general housekeeping items. So obviously our conversation today is in more of a webinar style format, which means that my video is shared and I'm able to speak to you, but you're all on mute and your videos are hidden, just to keep things a little bit more organized and to keep background noise at a minimum. But of course, those of you who have had webinars with me before know that I love feedback. I love when everyone gets engaged. So just because you're not visible doesn't mean I don't want to hear from you. So what I would really, really appreciate is if we use the webinar chat for any kind of conversations that we have today, any tips or tricks that you want to share with the other administrators that are on our webinar. And then if we use the actual Q&A feature for specific questions that you have for me, that helps to keep things a little bit more organized for me and allows me to be able to really manage the conversation and the flow throughout the webinar today and make sure that I don't overlook any questions thinking that they're just kind of conversations happening in the background between all of you. Before we get started, though, I would really love if we just take a minute kind of to introduce ourselves. So if you want to get familiar with that chat, webinar chat feature, maybe type in, who you are, what organization you're with. Are you participating in the Indianapolis Gives Challenge or the Cincinnati Gives Challenge? And maybe what you're hoping to get out of the webinar today. So I'll give this a minute or two if people want to start engaging. And again, the more you talk, the more fun this can be for all of us. So I appreciate the buy-in and sharing a little bit about yourself so that we all know who's in the virtual room with us today. Thank you, Heather. Nice to have you. And Wade, thank you. Look at that. Way to go. I appreciate this. Lots of people chatting. Let's see, we have some Cincinnati gives. We have a bunch of Indianapolis gives, which is exciting. I know this is year two of the campaign, so I think we'll probably likely have a bit more representation from Indy just because a lot of the Cincy orgs have participated for several years. But we do have some Cincy people, so I'm not putting you down at all. I'm excited to see the small contingent of Cincinnati holding strong, so this is exciting. Lots of awesome organizations too. I wish I had more time to chat with all of you. You have some great names, which automatically makes me know that I would love the causes that you're behind. So maybe I'll be able to connect with you offline. Looks like a lot of people are looking for, yeah, we have some feedback on just excited to learn about fundraising strategies, getting a little bit more comfortable with the platform, wanting to know how to reach new donors. So that's a great one. And Heidi, I'm just picking you randomly. It's your first time participating. So welcome. We're very excited to have you and excited to have you learn today about our fundraising strategies. Um, yeah, let's see. Who else do we have? Thanks, everybody. This is exciting. Lots of indie, lots of Cincy. So I think, honestly, it looks like we're kind of split with who we have participating today. So that's nice. Oh, Stephanie, I appreciate it. Not sure what the question was. I was just asking people what they were hoping to learn from the webinar today. Obviously, I have a preset set of slides, but if I needed to go rogue and answer some questions that people had, it was going to give me the opportunity to put some things in. But um, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. First thing that I will tell you, because we're all human, have a little bit of a cold that I'm battling right now with the change of the season. So have a little throat lozenge in. I have some water. I'm going to try to keep myself from coughing as I do this, but there might be a few times I have to mute myself, and hopefully you can chat amongst yourselves until I can get back to this. So just that time of the year. And then the one other thing before we get going is a lot of people usually ask this. The webinar today is being recorded. So my goal is that I will have the webinar recording available on the nonprofit toolkit of both of the Gives Challenge websites by end of day today. And if not, it'll be first thing tomorrow morning, along with the slide deck as well. So our conversation today, I'll probably go a bit in the slide deck and then a bit in actual like a demo environment. That way you can see some things that are happening like live and it's not just screenshots, but the slide deck itself will also be available in the nonprofit toolkit. So perfect. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. Like I said, I would love for you all in the webinar chat today because it looks like there's a decent amount of people that are returning, and then we have some like really brand new people that just want to learn how it works in general. So Our main goals for today are really going to be talking like briefly how to set a goal for a 10-day fundraising campaign. We're going to talk about how to secure funding for matching grants, how to set up matching grants in the Mightycause platform, and then peer-to-peer fundraising. So, what's the strategy behind it? How do we set it up? How do we manage our peer-to-peer fundraisers? And then at the end, we'll talk really briefly about a few updates for prizes and rules for the Gives Challenge. So, if there are people on the call right now who have participated in years past, and let's say that maybe you used peer-to-peer fundraising in a previous year and saw like a lot of success and have maybe tweaked, your peer-to-peer management plan in order to make that more successful. These campaigns, while there is a prize component and there are leaderboards, like we're all really trying right now to, forward our causes and make the world a better place and support people that need to be supported. And so sharing resources amongst ourselves to really be able to uplift all nonprofits is really important. So if you have any like really helpful, wise wisdom that you can pass on to other administrators like yourself, please use the webinar chat and chat in and kind of, give those best tips and practices throughout the conversation. And then again, using that Q&A feature for any specific questions that you have for me. My goal is that I will try to answer them live if it feels like it's something that's really applicable to what we're talking about in the moment. If it's something that seems like it's like really specific to you and might require me to like pull up your profile and get some more answers for you, I might just hold that until the end when we have a longer kind of Q&A session that's not recorded. And that way I can get answers to you more specifically. So. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with our webinar for today. So our main agenda, which I just briefly touched on, is really, talking about really high level Gives Challenge basics, goal setting. So what is a great goal for a 10-day fundraising campaign? How can I be successful with that? Matching grants, peer-to-peer fundraising, leaderboards and prizes, and then a little bit of Q&A at the end. So before we get started, though, I do want to do a bit of a plug. So if you are attending today, which you are because you're here and you're talking to me, that's fantastic. But we didn't have as many people attend webinar number one. So if that was intentional, that's okay. Maybe you have participated in several years and you kind of already know how to get started. Maybe you registered after webinar one, and so this is the first thing that you are attending. So a plug that we already had our first webinar of our training series. That webinar was really kind of the 1.0. So it talked more in depth about, what is the Cincinnati and Indianapolis Gives Challenge. We talked about how to register your organization to participate. We talked about how to build out your profile page so that it looked engaging and could help drive more donations during the 10-day challenge. And really just kind of like the groundwork framework of how to like get started for the Gives Challenge. Our conversation today is really kind of 2.0. So it's you've done all of your homework, your page is ready to go. Now let's dive into the fundraising tools that are available to really take your campaign to the next step. So if you have not watched that first webinar, just a reminder that that's available in the nonprofit toolkit on either of the Gives Challenge websites. The recording is there, the slide deck is there, and would really highly encourage you if this is your first time hearing from me and seeing me and talking about the Gives Challenge, that of course stick around and hang out for today because you're going to learn something great. But I would also recommend going back and watching that first webinar so that you really know how to like get yourself started and ready to be at this point moving forward. I also saw someone say your page is ready to go. Yikes. Okay, getting your page close to ready to go. Okay, I know that we still have a few weeks to get things launched. So that webinar really kind of gets you just started. So let's go over the Gives Challenge basics, really high level. I know most of you probably know this, and that's why you're here, but just wanted to reiterate in case this is the first time that you're hearing it. So the Gives Challenge is a 10-day fundraising campaign. We'll start on December 1st at 5 p.m. Eastern and run through December 11th at 5 p.m. Eastern. We have, and you heard me refer to this, but we have two campaigns that are happening within the Gives Challenge umbrella. So we have the Cincinnati Gives Challenge, and then we have the Indianapolis Gives Challenge. Cincinnati Gives folks have been with us for several years. Indianapolis Gives is on its second year of the fundraising challenge. So Really excited also to just have this mix of nonprofits that are in webinars and trainings like this because we have these year-long participants partnered with these like very new participants. And so I think it's just a great space to really learn from each other. But they are two separate campaigns. All of the kind of back end stuff is the same, which is why we're able to just run one webinar and talk to you all as one large audience. It's just you'll be going to two different sites, registering in two different places and managing your campaigns on two different websites, depending on if you're in the Cincinnati or the Indianapolis area. Um, and then, of course, powered by Mightycause. So I think I skipped the whole part where I even introduced myself. I am Natalie. I work for Mightycause. So we are the tech platform behind the Gives Challenge. I'm the project manager that works with the teams at Cincinnati Magazine and Indianapolis Monthly to put on this campaign. And so those of you who have participated for several years have heard from me in the webinars. So thanks for sticking along and continuing to show up. But yeah, that's who I am. And then our key milestones. So we really are, at the end of the prep period for the Gives Challenge. Today is the last webinar, so that's our top kind of milestone there. And then our next thing, which is important, is registration closing at the end of the day on November 24th. So if you are attending this webinar, and you have not actually registered yet to participate in Indianapolis Gives or Cincinnati Gives, please make sure that you do that. That is required every single year. So even if you participated last year or participated 2 years ago, each year organizations are required to re-register to participate. So if you're like, that doesn't sound familiar, then it's likely that you need to go register. So you can visit either one of the Indianapolis or Cincy, depending on what area you're in. There'll be a register button. Click on that. You'll go to a page where it'll start walking you through the registration flow. You'll fill out a really short form, probably shouldn't take you more than like 5 to 10 minutes to fill it out, submit it, and then the team will review it, make sure that you are eligible to participate, and then you will either be approved or declined depending on your eligibility, and then you'll be able to go from there. So I'm always happy to have everybody at the webinars, but it never fails that we have some people that show up that didn't realize that they actually haven't registered yet. So make sure you do so. Um, and then, of course, last but not least, then our next big milestone, which I feel like if you're the same as me, this season is just going by so quickly. I can't believe that we're talking right now about things happening on November 24th and in December, but our next milestone after that would then be the actual Gives Challenge, so December 1st through December 11th. So now that we have talked about, Gives Challenge basics, and again, I made a mention of webinar one, where you learn about how to register, how to build out your page, how to make it look really nice to attract donors. Our conversation today is really about how to set your goal for the 10-day challenge, and then how to utilize the Mightycause fundraising features to really be able to help you reach those goals that you're setting. So, first and foremost, we want to make sure that we set a goal that inspires others, and we want to make a plan for how we're going to get there. So, the first thing is setting a clear and achievable goal and adjust it if you surpass it. So, it's always great to have an internal goal and then maybe one that is published and something that you're advertising to your supporters, to your board members probably know your internal goal, but to anybody outside of your organization. It's always better to set a goal, reach that goal, and then adjust that goal to something larger than it is to set a goal that is just not really unrealistic and then not hit it. So we're really impressing upon, looking at if you are a previous participant in the Cincinnati Gives Challenge or Indianapolis Gives Challenge, look at what you raised last year, look at what you raised over the last couple years. Even if you're actually brand new to participating in the giving event, but you have done fundraising campaigns in the past on your own, look at what your supporters typically are able to give to you and set a realistic goal based off of what that funding and giving has looked like. Again, knowing that it's always easier to increase your goal than it is to walk back a goal that has already been publicized. Second is really taking that overall goal that you're setting and breaking it into more achievable milestones. So either daily or let's say like mid-campaign milestones. So when we're thinking about the Indianapolis and Cincinnati Gives Challenge, normally I'm talking to audiences that are 24-hour fundraising campaigns. And so we really have one goal and we're squishing all of that gamification into one day to be able to achieve that goal. There are pros and cons with that. when we look at the Cincinnati and Indianapolis Gives Challenge, we now have 10 days. So it's a little less like, crazy because we have 10 days to pull it off. But again, the challenge that comes with that is how do I keep my donors motivated for 10 days? How do I keep them from just coming and giving once, walking away, and not checking back in with my organization? Part of that is setting, either daily or mid-challenge goals, and then making sure that you're communicating that out with the audience. So maybe you're saying, our goal is to raise $1,000 every day of the 10-day Gives Challenge. That took it from being something that might have felt really huge, so saying we want to raise $10,000, to instead saying, hey, donor base, we really want to mobilize because each day of the Gives Challenge, we want to make sure that we're raising $1,000. And I know that it seems like so like, yeah, of course, $1,000 every day equals 10,000 at the end. But like we all know psychology. And if you break up a very large goal into smaller segmented goals, you have a much higher rate of success to be able to achieve that. I'm not going to go out and run a marathon in a couple months, but maybe I say I want to run X amount of miles every day and I slowly get myself into shape to be able to do that. So again, smaller kind of daily, or let's even say half campaign goals. So again, maybe we have that overall goal of wanting to raise $10,000, but we actually tell our public, by day 5, we want to have raised $5,000. So setting these goals that are achievable and then breaking them up into smaller segmented goals that help you reach that overall goal at the end of the 10-day fundraising campaign. And then, kind of another note when we're thinking about goal setting in general is making sure that you're reviewing the prize pool for Indianapolis Gives and Cincinnati Gives. We have a handful we have grand prizes, we have a couple full length challenges, and then we have daily challenges as well. From an org admin perspective, it would really be beneficial to go and look at those prizes, and they're published on both of the websites right now. Look at those and maybe say, okay, like I'm looking at, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. I'm seeing, what I could win. Some of them are just cash prizes. Some of them are cash plus something that's like an in kind, like a ticket somewhere. Identify the prize that you think you want to go for, and then build your campaign strategy around that. And so, if I'm really going for the prize that's happening on the third day of the challenge, then I'm communicating that out to my donors and saying that our goal is to reach. I'm going to make this up right now. Let's say that day 3 of the challenge is, the nonprofit who raises the most amount of dollars on this particular day online. Then maybe I'm saying like our goal for this day is to reach $3,000. Like help us get there. If you do, we have a chance of unlocking this additional prize funding. So, we're setting our overall goal, we're making it achievable, we're breaking it up into mini goals, and then we're also looking at this prize pool to see how can I kind of, weave in wanting to go after unlocking these additional funds, but also like mobilizing my base on those particular days to get me closer to being able to win that particular prize. And then, one of the most important things, which is a lot of the meat of the conversation we're going to have today, is using matches and peer-to-peer fundraising to accelerate that progress. So, matching grants are obviously a great tool to be able to get more donations to come in. If your donor sees that, I give $10 and I unlock an additional $10, so effectively my donation is counted, is multiplied, then I am more likely to give than on a day where my $10 donation is just $10. And I give $10 are unlocked. That's also, rapidly getting you closer to that overall, dollar fundraising goal. Similarly, let's think that our goal is more. I saw somebody in our first initial chat saying that your goal was to reach new supporters. So, peer-to-peer fundraising is a fantastic way to be able to get that goal unlocked for you. So, peer-to-peer fundraising, allowing your supporters to create their own mini campaign pages to fundraise on your behalf. They spread that out into their network. So, let's say I love your org. I create a fundraising page. I share that on my social media. My grandma sees it. My grandma loves me. She supports everything that I support. So then my grandma gives to you. So peer-to-peer fundraising, great way to reach any kind of, donor and also like engagement goals. And then last but certainly not least is making sure to share updates to keep your supporters engaged throughout the campaign. So, like I said earlier, we don't want to do like a set it and forget it. I don't want to just set my goal and then say, okay, I'm going to keep an eye on my page throughout the 10-day challenge. But like, I've already told the public what my goal is, and Then I'm just going to follow up with them on day 10 and tell them if we reached it or not. That's probably not the best strategy. We really want to celebrate any successes that we have along the way because momentum really breeds momentum. Showing your supporters that you are inching towards your goal and that you're making progress keeps them more engaged, keeps them coming back, and allows them again to not just make a donation and leave. They're making a donation and then they're keeping an eye on your social media to see, are you getting close to your fundraising goal? Should I come back and give again because you need a couple more dollars to get there? Or should I get my best friend to donate because you need one more donor to unlock this specific thing? So the more that you can communicate, and I say more with an asterisk, right? We want to make sure that it is meaningful communication that you're sending out. But the more that we can show our progress, the better that's going to be. And now I'm going to get another cough drop. Let's see, we've had a couple questions that have come in. I see, do we actually set a goal in our page now ahead of time, or does it live somewhere else? Yes, you can set a goal on your actual organization page. It would be our pages allow you to set a dollar goal. So if your campaign is focused on a dollar goal, that is something that you can set. I'll hop over here really quickly into our demo site to show you. So this is an example of me being an administrator for the Animal Humane Society. I am on my organization page. I'm logged in. I have edit mode enabled so I can make some adjustments. I scroll down here, I hit my little pencil icon. Oops, I scroll down here and I hit my little pencil icon, and this is where I can edit my dollar goal. So that's a huge dollar goal. This is our demo environment. No one's usually setting a $1.6 million goal. We just kind of do stuff because it's silly. But this is where you could adjust and set your goal on your page. Great question. And thank you, Amy. It looks like we have people helping people. So we had a question about where the prizes are listed. So I appreciate you linking out and sending that link. But yeah, just a quick reminder. On both of the Gives Challenge websites, if you go there, so cincinnatigives.org, you'll see a rules and prizes right here at the top, which you can click on. Similarly for Indianapolis Gives rules and prizes as well. So both of those are linked out there. And a plug from what we talked about earlier, if you have not yet registered to participate, big old register button right here in the middle for you to start getting registered for the campaign. Perfect. So we have talked about setting our goals and best practices for setting goals for a 10-day fundraising campaign. So now let's switch into talking about the actual fundraising features on the Mightycause platform that can help you reach those goals. First, let's talk about matching grants. So probably one of the most common questions that we get from nonprofits is, how do I find a sponsor for a matching grant? And I think asking for money can be awkward. It can be uncomfortable, but I think if you ask around and talk to other nonprofits that have secured matching grants, they'll tell you that it's not as hard as they initially thought that it was going to be. Think about people that are already close to your organization and who are already contributing, but maybe you can just leverage their contribution in a different way. So think about your board members who maybe typically give larger donations throughout the year. Think about your major donors who haven't yet given in this fiscal year, and maybe you can tap into them and say, hey, I know you typically give us, and let's say your fiscal year ends like sometime in March or something. I know you typically before end of fiscal year give us a $5,000 donation. Would you mind giving that a little bit early because we're participating in the Indianapolis Gives Challenge, and we would love to be able to use that donation to really motivate and incentivize other donors to give as a way to unlock additional funding. So thinking about those people that are already in your circle, that are already willing to go above and beyond for you, and local businesses. So there might be, I'm not familiar with all of your stories, but you might have connections with local businesses already who maybe donate things to you in kind to help your nonprofit be able to keep moving. So those people are also fantastic resources to leverage as potential sponsors for a matching grant. And also when you're thinking about asking them, like frame it as it being a gift that is going to help challenge and inspire others to be able to give. Sponsors like to know that their money means something when they give it to you. In addition to their name being advertised on your organization page, showing that they were a sponsor, They also just, I think we as humans love to know that when we do good, it does good, right? So I think that, letting them know that that $5,000 donation is going to help drive and incentivize more donors to give, which is going to help you potentially reach your $10,000 fundraising goal for the 10-day challenge. The more that you can connect it back to like what that money is going to help you do and how it's going to help you get there, really helps them see the big picture and probably will get you a yes faster. And then I keep saying $5,000 as an example. I think I was just stuck on that for some reason, but just a reminder that even small matches can really matter and make a huge impact. So, matches $500 to $1,000, they can sometimes make as much of an impact as a matching grant that might be worth $5,000. We have a lot of settings. We're going to talk about them here in just a second. But you can decide, how quickly those funds unlock, do donors have to help get something before we unlock them? So, just because it's small doesn't mean that it can't also help you get closer to your overall goal. And then last but not least, making sure that you add your match right into your nonprofit dashboard, which is what we're going to talk about here in a second. So setting up your match strategically. I'm going to actually hop over into our demo environment because I think it's probably helpful just to see what it looks like and where you go as an organization admin to set up a matching grant on your page. So again, this is me logged in. I'm an organization admin for the Animal Humane Society. I'm logged into my page. Over here on the left-hand side is what we call our organization dashboard. You're probably quite familiar with this at this point, I hope, because at this point, I'm hoping you have registered and you have started to build out your organization page. Um, let's say that I'm ready to go in and start setting up a matching grant. So I'll come over here into fundraising tools and then I will click on matching grants. And this is where is my matching grant manager. So this will show me all of the matching grants that I have set up that are happening right now, that are upcoming, and that have happened in the past. So if we scroll down here, we can see that this demo organization has been very active, tons of matches since 2018 onward. Anything that I have created that maybe I already have secured my matching grants and I have them set up already and they're, pending and they're getting ready to be active for the Gives Challenge. Things like that that are already set up would be in this upcoming matches area. And then when we're during the Gives Challenge and your matching grant is in the active period window, that's where your live matches will show. So let's go ahead and go through the process of creating a matching grant. So I've landed here on the matching grant tab of my organization dashboard. I click on create up here in the right hand corner, and this is where I start to create a matching grant. So lots of options that you have for things to be able to add. The ones that we're actually going to go over today, though, are um, the ability to set a start and an end time for your matching grant. So we talked about when we were originally discussing the concept of setting goals, right? And setting, taking your overall goal, let's say $10,000, and how do I make that more achievable? How do I make that happen throughout a 10-day campaign? So maybe if I am very fortunate, I have secured two different matching grants. I'm going to have the first one that's helping to motivate donors during the first half of the 10 days, and then a matching grant that's going to motivate donors towards the second half of those 10 days. So here I can set the start and the end time for my matching grant. Likewise, if you have more than one matching grant that you're going to leverage throughout the day, so let's say that I already have one set up and is scheduled. If I come back here to set up match number two, I would see a slightly different little option that lives right here that would actually prompt me to say, do you want this matching grant to be queued to automatically start once the one you already set up has finished? So that can be super helpful if you have two matching grants that you've secured. And rather than you sitting and waiting and looking at your page every day to see, what's the moment that match one ends so that I can go in and turn on match number two, you can use that super helpful tool that we have to essentially just say, hey, platform, automatically, once match number one ends, make sure that this one kicks in. So super easy to do that. The next thing that I wanted to touch on was kind of the setup options when it comes to your matching grant. So you can match a certain percentage of donations. And so this is where it gets a little fun to say, how much do we want to incentivize our donors and how much do I have available in my matching grant? So if I am very fortunate and I'm able to leverage, let's say, a $5,000 matching grant, I have a lot of money to play with. So I could potentially say, instead of a standard one-to-one matching grant, which would be, I'm matching 100% of that donation. So you give me $10, my matching grant unlocks $10. I could change this to 200% instead and say that, every gift that comes into us during this active matching grant will be doubled. And so you give me $10, my matching grant actually unlocks 20. So again, great way to get, even motivating like lower capacity donors. So let's say that you're looking at your donation report from previous years of the Gives Challenge. You're noticing that you have really strong supporter base, but they are lower capacity donors. So we're looking at, donations anywhere from $10 to maybe $100 is really the sweet spot of how much your donors are giving. This could be a really great way to motivate more of those donors to give because it's saying that, even though you're giving a small amount, what you're actually able to do is going to be a huge impact. And so that donor who might say, I don't have a lot to give right now. I'm not sure that my $10 really means anything in the grand scheme of life right now. Like how far can $10 get you? If you have a match that's set up that's going to double how much I give, then my $10 technically turns into $30 once the match is unlocked, and that means a lot more and might motivate me to be able to give. So again, creative way that you can kind of leverage the percentage feature. Next thing that you can do it on, in conjunction with a percentage-based match, is saying that you want to match a maximum dollar amount per donation. So, great example of maybe I have that $500 matching grant or a $1,000 matching grant, and I'm a little bit worried that I'm not going to know how to stretch that out for an entire 10 days of a campaign. So maybe I do set it up to say, we'll match 100% of a donation, but we're only going to match up to, let's say, like maybe $50. And so that way I'm slowing down the amount that my match is unlocking. And it's keeping, from one big donor coming in and wiping out all of the match, and then therefore I'm not motivating as many people. So a great way to kind of slow things down, still allow, that gamification. So you're matching some of their contribution, but you're not matching like a full amount for like larger contributions. So great tool to be able to use. And then the next thing that you can do, again, kind of thinking about our goals, is so this is great. A matching, a true matching grant where we're doing a percentage-based match is fantastic if you're thinking about a dollar goal for the 10-day challenge. I saw a few people in our initial conversation that said that they're really focused on maybe growing their donor count for this year because maybe you're situated well. This is at the end of your fundraising fiscal year, and you're like, we've reached our goals. Of course, we want to raise money during the Cincinnati or Indianapolis Gives Challenge, but really what we're trying to do is we're taking a programmatic shift and we're really looking at like growing our donor base and kind of like trying to get more volume of the amount of people that are supporting us. So something like a cumulative threshold match can be really helpful. This is a really lengthy term, which is not my favorite. I like to think of these as a challenge. So something that you set up like this is essentially telling your donors that I am not unlocking these funds until you meet this specific goal that I have set in place. So for a traditional match, it is, you bring in $10, you give me $10, and then the match automatically unlocks $10. So it's instant gratification. This cumulative threshold match, aka what I call a challenge, is more so we can see here. So it says apply the total amount when the total dollars equals the match amount. So this could be where maybe I say, I have $1,000 and we are not going to unlock it until we receive $1,000 from donors. So you're essentially challenging them to work together to reach a collective goal until you unlock those particular funds. Again, can be really helpful if you have maybe that wanting to grow your donor count for this particular year, because you can do the same thing to say, we're only going to unlock these dollars once we have a certain amount of unique donors that are reached. And then you can type in the amount of unique donors here. So, let's say that I am looking to get 200 donors that give during Cincinnati Gives, 200 unique donors. Then I type in 200 here. And then essentially, once I save this, my $2,000 won't unlock until 200 unique donors give to my page. So again, all of these, it sounds like there's a lot of options, but that's why we started the flow of this conversation today was saying, think about what your goal is, break up that goal, and then figure out how, either matching grants or peer-to-peer fundraising can help you reach them. So really kind of helpful for, depending on what type of goal that you're leveraging. And then the last one that I wanted to show you was setting a minimum per donation amount before the match is applied. So let's say that your goal is actually a little bit different than a traditional goal, and you're saying that, we're trying to just see if we can slightly boost the average donation amount that our organization receives throughout the 10-day challenge. We participated in several years. Um, and we're doing fine, but our dollar number isn't really growing, but our donor count is kind of consistently growing. And so what we're seeing is that more people are giving, but they're giving a little bit less. Then maybe you create a matching grant that essentially says, we will match your donation, but it has to be a donation of $25 or more. And so that's how you're maybe incentivizing donors to make a slightly larger donation than they initially would, because you're not actually going to unlock this match unless you make a donation of X amount or more. Again, I think you have to think about that particular one strategically, because we don't want to alienate our lower capacity donors by setting a matching grant that's like, we're only going to activate this if you give $200 or more. I don't think you're going to have a ton of activity on a match like that. So make sure that whatever you set that minimum amount to activate is something that like seems achievable for your donor base, if not like slightly encouraging them to go outside of their comfort zone and make like a slightly larger gift than they normally would. So that is setting up a matching grant in a nutshell. The next thing that I wanted to talk about quickly is, what does it look like once you have that matching grant set up? So screenshots here, because I don't believe on this page right now we have one set up. Of course we don't. When you have a matching grant set up on your page, automatically, when the matching grant is active, the Mightycause platform will apply a little match kind of badge over your donate button so that it's automatically very clear to your donors that there is a matching grant that is active on your page. Again, wanting to help to motivate your donors to be able to give. In addition to there being a little matching grant badge, there is a section kind of lower down on your organization page, where there will be a section that shows any of your matching grants. So you don't see it right now because there isn't one active on this demo page, but it will not only show off up here where it'll show that there's a matching grant that's active, but there'll also be a section here on the page that shows which matching grants are available. And then I wanted to talk really briefly about just like managing your matching grants. So if a matching grant is upcoming, so it's scheduled but hasn't started yet, or it's actively started, there are some things you can do if you notice that you're like, I made a mistake and I need to adjust something really quick. So let's say that you put in that the matching grant was for $1,200, but you actually meant to put it in as $1,500. You could go in and you could adjust that amount. You can always change a matching grant to be more than it was when you initially set it, but you can't make it less, because there's no way that the platform would like know that you set it less if donations have already come in. So you can always increase the amount of the matching grant that is active or upcoming. You can also make adjustments to some of those settings. So let's say that you meant to click that you wanted it to only, match up to $15 per donation. You could go in there and make that adjustment to any donations that came in after that point. So it wouldn't retroactively change, but it would help for any donations that came in after that. Worst case scenario, if you set up a matching grant and you're like, I have somehow fumbled the whole thing, none of it is right, it didn't do anything that I was expecting it to do. Um, a couple options that you have. A couple options that you have. Right into our Mightycause customer support team. We are here, we are happy to help, and we are well trained on the world of matching grants for nonprofits. If you write into our team and you tell us, hey, this is what I was trying to do, this is the particular match I was trying to do it with, everything went wrong. Our team can quickly be able to delete that bad matching grant for you, create the new matching grant, and have everything aligned successfully. The great thing about our matching grant tool is that it can be used retroactively. So let's say that you are on day 3 of the Gives Challenge when you realize that your match that you set up is not performing how it was supposed to. At that point, we can delete that match. We can set up a new match that's scoped back to the start of the fundraising campaign, and then any donations that came in during that time will be matched successfully. So you're not going to be at the point of like no return to be able to make adjustments. So when in doubt, write into our customer support team and we're here and happy to help you. And then the last little thing on the screen that I wanted to show you is, so let's say that your matching grant is over and you're really curious about like what donations were matched that came in. These matching grants all have downloadable reports that you can download. So if you clicked on download donation report, that would be a true like print out of each individual donation that came into your organization or your peer-to-peer fundraisers if you allow the matched account in that way, which is an option that you can do. And it would show you every single donation that came in that helped to unlock that match. Similarly, if you click on download summary report, that would actually show you a breakdown of any of like the pages associated with you that helped you unlock that. So let's say that you have a ton of peer-to-peer fundraisers. You set up your matching grant so that it applies to donations that come to your overall organization page, as well as any gifts to your peer-to-peer fundraisers. This type of report would actually show you that, like, this is the amount of donations that came directly to your org page that were matched. Here are the amount of donations that came to Natalie's peer-to-peer fundraiser page that were matched. So two different reports, helpful for whatever kind of your reconciliation needs are. Fantastic. And then our last thing is just some FAQs on matching grants. And I saw that we had a couple of questions that have come through. So I promise I'm not ignoring you. I'm going to get to them in just a second. But really quickly, let's talk about what are the most common FAQs that I have seen on our side that have come in from the Gives Challenge organizations about matches. So first and foremost is, does the matching grant have to be processed online? So this question is really saying, so my matching grant sponsor, do they have to give that, $1,000 donation to me as an online gift through the Gives Challenge website, or can they give that to me as a check outside of the platform? Technically, both are options. But the Indianapolis and Cincinnati Gives Challenge only count donations that come through the online platform towards your leaderboards and towards your prizes. So if you want that $1,000 gift that is given from your match sponsor to help count towards your leaderboards, then you want that match sponsor to actually make their $1,000 donation directly through your Gives Challenge page once that match has been unlocked, in order for that to count towards your leaderboards. That being said, if you have a match sponsor who's like, I'm giving you $5,000 and I'm certainly not making that as a credit card donation, and here it is as a check, still, please utilize that, leverage that as a matching grant for the Gives Challenge, but just know that that $5,000 part that they have given you outside of the platform wouldn't count on your leaderboards or towards your prizes. That's usually a common question that we get. Next is, do donations to peer-to-peer fundraiser pages count towards the match? They certainly can, so that's up to you. We're going to talk about peer-to-peer fundraising here in a second, but let's say that I have, 50 peer-to-peer fundraisers that are like super active and they do a really great job helping to get donations for my campaign, but I only have a matching grant of like $1,000. Maybe when I set up that matching grant, I don't want it to be activated by donations to my peer-to-peers because I'm like, that's just going to use up way too fast. Like, I want this to really just be visible on our organization page to motivate organic traffic that's coming right to our page and not by way of a fundraiser. Or maybe you say, I have 4 or 5 active fundraisers, but I don't think it's going to use it up so fast. So you go ahead and when you set up that matching grant, you say, okay, that's fine. I'll allow any donations to my peer-to-peers to also activate the matching grant. So totally up to you. Next question. So we talked a little bit about being able to set a start and an end time for your matching grants, as well as the ability to queue one to start after the other. So typically after I go through that point, and it's very possible this was asked and I haven't seen it yet, but after that point, sometimes people will ask, well, what if I wanted to have 2 matching grants that are active at the same time? You can. You absolutely can have matching grants active at the same time. The only thing you have to consider, though, is that let's say that you have, again, 2 matches that are both active. I make my $10 gift. I'm going to activate both of those matches. So your matches are just going to be utilized quicker if you have them active at the same time than if you are to kind of, spread them apart and use them for different, spans of the 10-day challenge. So there's nothing that keeps you from doing it. You can activate them at the same time. Just really be aware and understanding and in agreement that you're okay with the fact that those matches are going to be used up much faster if they're happening at the same time. And then last but not least, I know we touched on this, but oh no, everything has gone wrong. What do I do? Right into our customer support team. We are here and happy to help. We can delete things, we can adjust things, we can, create new matching grants for you to fix everything. So we are here and happy to help when it comes to matching grant questions. So I'm going to take a second before we hop over to peer-to-peer fundraising because it looks like we have had a couple matching grant specific questions. I do have some other questions so just a reminder to folks that if you have questions and if you have put them in through the chat, can you actually go to the Q&A feature right now and write them into the Q&A in addition, because there's just a lot in the chat and I want to make sure that I don't miss your questions. So I'm just going to focus right now on Q&A questions that have come in, and then you chat folks, if you can take them and put them in Q&A, I will answer them once they come in. So the question that I'm seeing right now that is related to matching grants. So yeah, I see, how would a daily matching grant work in the midst of an overall campaign matching grant? Can the two run simultaneously? So I think I answered your question, Melissa. So yes, you can have two matching grants that run simultaneously. Just being aware that that just means that like they're going to be used up a little bit faster. But in your thought process where you have, let's say, like a smaller matching grant that's available just for a particular day, but then you have a campaign-wide matching grant, it seems that you're already understanding that it's okay and intentional and fine for you if both of those are activated, because you're like, one is just small and it's trying to get people to go today, and the other one is trying to keep momentum going. So that would be totally fine. Um, what do we have? Other matching grants? Can the matching grant be ACH/checking account/DAF, or does it have to be from a credit card only? Great question, Heather. So it just has to come in through the online payment method on the Gives Challenge. So technically, it could come in as a credit card gift. It could come in through Apple Pay, Google Pay. I think we have Venmo, PayPal, and then ACH. So it would have to come through one of those available payment methods that charges the donor online through the Gives Challenge. Donor Advised Fund is not something that charges online through the Gives Challenge, and neither would like writing a check. So, but if it is like ACH and they link through the ACH payment method, then that counts. So really, if they go to the Gives Challenge, make that donation online through one of those available payment methods, that would count. Perfect. So use this. Can we measure? Wonderful. And it looks like okay, I am, and I promise I'm not ignoring other questions that aren't matching grant specific, but I do, in the purpose of time, want to just like answer matching grants and then we'll switch to other ones. It looks like we still have some questions coming through the chat. So if you can just make sure you put them in the Q&A, that's super helpful for me. So we have Liz who says, does the matching grant donor give the funds up front or wait to see what comes in as a match and then give that matched amount? My recommendation personally would be that your matching grant sponsor waits to make their donation to your page. If they're going to give online, they wait to do that until after the match has finished. So when you're going through the matching grant setup here, down here at the bottom, you'll see this email field that says optional. So let's say, Liz, that I am the sponsor of your matching grant. You would want to put in my email here. And so once this matching grant that's associated with me finishes, I automatically, if you put my email here, I automatically get an email from the platform telling me that the matching grant has been unlocked. And then in that email notification, it gives me a quick link that I can click on, which takes me to your page to fulfill my matching grant sponsorship as a donation to you online. So I always recommend, one, going the route, if you know that your matching grant sponsor is going to fulfill online, put their email here. And then two, making sure that you communicate to them that they shouldn't make that donation to your page until they get the email notification letting them know that it's time. This just helps avoid them like accidentally making their donation at the same time their matching grant is active, because then they're really just like eating up the match with the money that they're giving you. So like we just want to time it appropriately. So I would say give online, email here, and then they could give online once they get that notification. Great question from Wade. It looks like you have a bunch of questions. So let's see. You said when you select the include match value and page metrics, it says if your grantor plans to fulfill their match online, we recommend disabling this option. That is correct. So Um, this checkbox here sometimes trips up organizations when it comes to setting up a matching grant. So, the easiest way that I can explain it is that if your matching grant sponsor has to, for any particular reason, give their contribution to you outside of the Gives Challenge website, so that means that they're giving it to you offline, then you are going to leave this box checked because that's essentially the way that the match is going to be included in the platform. Leaving this box checked means that, if my donor gives $10 and my match unlocks $10, then my metrics on my page go up by 20. So it's $10 from the donor, $10 from the match. So leaving this checked allows the platform to just automatically include dollars from that match into your totals as the match is activated. So that's a great thing because it means that you don't really have to monitor anything. There's no, adding an offline donation like to represent that match. None of that has to happen. You come here, you put in that $2,000, you leave this checked, and then you set up your match, you click save, and then the platform will automatically put your match value into your totals as it's unlocked throughout the day. So that's how to do it if your matching dollars are received outside of the platform. If you know that your match sponsor is going to give your donation directly through the Gives Challenge platform, then you're going to want to uncheck that box. And then you can come here for select reason, and then you can select the match funder intends to fulfill their commitment by donating through this page. So when I do that, I'm essentially telling the platform that I don't want you to inflate my metrics every time my match is unlocked because I know that my match sponsor is making their donation to my page once the match is fulfilled. So in that example, there's a matching grant available. I, Natalie, give $10 to your organization. The match box itself, which kind of shows me progress to goal, shows that my donation has activated the match, but your metrics on your page only go up by my $10 donation. And that's because we know that this match sponsor, once the match is over, is going to come to your page and make that contribution. So we don't want things to double count. We don't want that same behavior where the match automatically releases things into your totals if we know that the money is already coming in afterwards. So really basic, really easy. Money's coming to you outside of the platform, leave this box checked. Money coming to you through the platform, uncheck that box and say it's because your match sponsor is going to give their donation online through your page. And again, this is all just to make sure that at the end of the day, once the matching grant is over, the right amount of dollars are going to be in your totals and nothing is going to be double counted. So great question. Perfect. So I'm going to, for the purpose of time, and I appreciate those of you if you're able to stay on a little bit because we have a little bit to chat through about peer-to-peer fundraising. So I'm going to switch to that quickly. I'll try to get through it as fast as I can. We have 8 minutes left, so I'm going to just go ahead and say right now we're probably going to go over by at least 10 minutes. So if you can stay, fantastic. If you can't, remember this is being recorded, so you can always hop back on to look at the recording later. But really appreciate those of you who have the time to stay a couple extra minutes. So I appreciate that. So again, I'm going to stay longer because I don't have anything after this. So I'll stay a bit longer for Q&A if you're able to hang out and I'll answer the questions that haven't been answered yet. So let's skip over and talk about peer-to-peer fundraising. So, right, we started this whole conversation today thinking about what are our goals? How do we map those goals? How do we make sure that they are smart? How do we make sure that we can break them down into mini goals to really motivate donors through the 10-day campaign? We talked about matching grants. So how do we get a sponsor? How do we set them up? And what types of matching grants can help for, different types of goals that we have. So now another fantastic tool is peer-to-peer fundraising. And so, peer-to-peer fundraising allows your supporter to come to your page. They create their own mini fundraising campaign page, which looks like your organization page, has, their photo on it, has their individual fundraiser goal, has a little blurb about why they are fundraising on behalf of your organization. And they take this unique page, they share that out with their own network, and they help to get new donors for your organization, as well as spreading awareness about your cause in networks where you might not have reached organically. And again, really great way to help sustain momentum during the 10-day challenge because it's not just you and your organization then managing your marketing efforts and making sure you're getting emails out in front of the right people. Your peer-to-peer fundraisers are also out there tapping into networks that you might not have even had access to begin with. So let's talk about how to set up peer-to-peer fundraising. So, my first suggestion before you even get started on recruiting peer-to-peer fundraisers is setting up your peer-to-peer fundraiser template. This just ensures that when your fundraisers go to sign up as a fundraiser on your page, they don't have to start from scratch. They actually already have content that is pre-filled by you. Of course, if they want to make adjustments to it to make it more specific to their own like reasons for wanting to fundraise on your behalf, or they want to make adjustments to the goal because they're certain that they can fundraise more than you put as their default goal, they're welcome to do that. But for those fundraisers that are like, I don't have a lot of time and I'm not super techy, it allows them to really quickly come to your page, click fundraise, sign up, and then they already have content on the page without having to spend any time really doing it. So I will show you quickly where we go in to set up a peer-to-peer fundraiser template. So again, we're back on my organization page. I'm logged in. I have my organization dashboard over here. I open up fundraising tools and then I can click on fundraiser template. So each organization that participates in the Gives Challenge can have one fundraiser template. So there's already one here in this demo environment, but because it's demo, I can create more. So here's an example of, I have never used a fundraiser template before and I need to create a new one. So I come here, I click on create, and then I have a bunch of fields that I can fill out from the admin perspective. So I can make a little note that says it's, the Gives Challenge template 2025 so that I know for historical purposes, like this is what we have used. I can add a fundraiser title. And so this would be the title that shows for all of my peer-to-peer fundraisers when they create their page. Something that I think is really helpful is that, using brackets to help signify to the fundraiser places that you think that they should edit. So you could go like bracket fund, if I could spell raiser. Here we go. So I'm putting, fundraiser name for Animal Care Sanctuary because I'm hoping that once the fundraiser goes through, creates their page, that I update this instead to say like Natalie for Animal Care Sanctuary. So you're just kind of signifying like, here are the things that I built for you, but like put in this one specific detail about yourself in this specific spot. Again, you can set a fundraising dollar goal for those peer-to-peer fundraisers. So let's say I want everybody to help me raise, let's say $100 because we're new to this. We want to get our peer-to-peer fundraisers motivated. You can add an image. So again, great way for you to kind of keep your branding consistent. And so maybe add an image. Maybe it's your logo. Maybe it is a really iconic programmatic image that you have on your year-round website, something that's engaging and really like signifies like an association with your organization. You can type in a short story for them, and then you can add in kind of that meat of like their story content that lives on their organization page. So again, the goal of this is that you're keeping it generally applicable for like a wide audience so that when they come through and then they create their fundraiser page and decide to use the template you provided, it's like the least amount of editing they have to do from doing that until actually like launching their page. So when you're thinking through this, if I'm like, okay, this is going to be from like a user perspective. So I might say like, I am fundraising for the Animal Humane Society because, and then maybe I put brackets there because I want the fundraiser to put in their own specific wording. So again, generally applicable, thinking that you could have fundraisers that are, volunteers. They might be low capacity donors. They might be high capacity donors. They might be board members. So you want to keep this messaging very general so that it works for like the most amount of your audience. And then once you're done creating your template, you would just click Create Template, and it would take you back to your page that looks like this, where your template would now be visible. Creating your brand new template, the template would be here. And then the next step is that you just want to enable it. So it's not super obvious, but if you just click the star that's next to the template and it turns gray, that means that your fundraising template is now enabled. And now anybody who goes through the fundraise process will have the option to utilize your template as they go through the flow. Let's say that you realize, ugh, I made a typo in the template. Super easy. Just come here and you can edit the template. You can delete the template. If you needed to share it with someone, you could share the template. So really easy kind of management here from that perspective. So we've created our fundraiser template, and now we need to make sure that we actually have fundraising enabled on our page so that people can sign themselves up. So step one, again, before we even start recruiting, before we even start like telling people about peer-to-peer fundraising is let's set them up for success. Let's create this template. Step two, I go to the organization page tab of my dashboard. I make sure edit mode is enabled. I scroll down here next to, well, this is a great example. This is where I'm like, oh, yay, fundraiser is already on. Let's say that I landed here and I'm like, oh no, where's my fundraise button? It just says donate. Super easy. You just click that little announcement icon, you toggle on the fundraise button, and now users who land on your page can click fundraise and they can start the fundraise process. So really, really simple. From a user perspective, so your peer-to-peer fundraisers, they come here, they click on fundraise. If they are not already logged into the platform, they would automatically go to a page that just said log in or sign up. And so in order to be a peer-to-peer fundraiser, you do have to have a Mightycause login because that's the only way like you can create a page that you can go back to time after time to make adjustments and then see donation activity that came through your page. Obviously, I'm already logged in, so it took me right to the first step of the create a fundraiser process. So this is where I can go ahead and say, okay, I want to get started. And this is where I see, oh, this organization has a template already provided. So let me go ahead and use that template. And now I can launch my page manager to create my peer-to-peer fundraiser page. Likewise, if I am like a seasoned peer-to-peer fundraiser and I'm like, I don't need to know what this template is because I'm going to start from scratch, I could always elect to move forward without having to use the fundraiser template. So totally up to the fundraiser. And then the last thing on that kind of front-facing fundraiser thing that I wanted to show you is what does a peer-to-peer fundraiser page look like? So here's an example of Susie's page for the Animal Humane Society. As you'll see, your peer-to-peer fundraisers have kind of a somewhat similar user interface as you do from the org admin perspective. So when they're logged in on their page, they have a little fundraiser dashboard where they can come in and, they can turn on edit mode and make adjustments to their page. They can go in and see donations that were attributed to their page. They can change some settings on their page. So they have a little bit of management options that live here. But in general, kind of pretty, pretty basic, pretty similar to your org page. We have that image that you added. We have their title. We can see how much they have raised. We can see donors that have given to them. And then we can see what their story is. So, why are they supporting your organization? So each have their own individual URL too. So this is the example where I've created my peer-to-peer fundraiser page. And now I grab that link, I share that out on my social media. So that way my network knows that I have a fundraiser page and now they can support me by way of supporting you. So that is kind of the front-facing version of peer-to-peer fundraising in a nutshell. And then the last thing, and I apologize, I know I'm kind of cruising through here, but is how do you as an organization manage your peer-to-peer fundraisers? That's a question that I get a lot. So we see nonprofits write in that are like, I have someone who wants to fundraise for my organization, but they're not really tech savvy. So ideally, I would like to create a page for them and then just share the link with them. So that way they can share it out, but like I've done all the back end work. Or I have a peer-to-peer fundraiser and unfortunately they put together a story that like we really don't want out there to the public. I either need to make adjustments to that page or I need to delete it. Like, what options do I have as the org administrator? So within this fundraising tools section and then campaigns is where you will see all of your peer-to-peer fundraisers. And so it would appear that my internet has just decided to slow down for us. So let's just refresh. So we'll go into our campaigns area. So this is where all of the published campaigns associated with my organization live. And so I said published as the keyword. When a peer-to-peer fundraiser goes through the process of creating their fundraiser page, there are certain requirements that they have to do in order to publish a page. So they have to have a title, they have to have content in this about section, and they have to have an image. You probably guessed, by way of you creating that peer-to-peer fundraiser template, you've already given them all the things that they need in order to be able to publish and have all those requirements met. So I say this because every once in a while we'll have an organization admin that's like, I don't know, I just talked to Janet and she swears she created a peer-to-peer fundraiser page, but like for the life of me, like I can't find it in my campaign manager. Odds are is that Janet created that page, but she has not yet published it. So this is where you'll see everybody who is published In that situation, you would tell Janet, hey, go back to your peer-to-peer fundraiser dashboard, go into your settings tab and click the publish button because it seems like you have not yet made your page visible for other people to access. So campaign manager here, again, I'm seeing all of my published peer-to-peer fundraiser pages. I can see the name of those pages. I can see the type of page. I can see how much they've raised. I can see the last time a change was made to that page. I can see who owns it. So was it a peer-to-peer fundraiser page that was created like by someone who's an administrator of my organization, or is it something that was created by someone outside of my organization? So that would be the difference between it saying admin versus peer-to-peer. I can see when that page was created, I can see when it was published, and then I can also see the status. So is it currently published, or for some reason has that peer-to-peer fundraiser decided to hide their visibility from the public? Other things I can do is, I can locate Susie's page. I can click on this little three dot icon next to Susie's name, and then I can click on campaign dashboard. And so because I'm an organization admin, that means I automatically have administrative access and rights to each peer-to-peer fundraiser page that's connected to my organization page. So here's where I, as the admin, would come in and say, oh, Susie has a typo. So I'd come in and I'd fix that typo. Or I would say, it looks like Susie was accidentally set her goal to $1 million. Like, let me set that back to $100. So you now have full access as if you're a peer-to-peer fundraiser to make adjustments to their page simply by locating, clicking the three dot icon, and then saying that you want to go to that campaign dashboard. Similarly, let's say that there is a situation where you're going through and you're looking at fundraisers and you have like an old fundraiser that is no longer applicable, but we don't want to delete it because we don't want to delete like all the historical record that lives with it. You could click on here and then you could toggle discoverability. So essentially, it just means it's hiding it from the public, but it doesn't delete it from existing. Or in reversed, maybe Susie reaches out to you and is like, when I look at your page, like I can't find my fundraiser anywhere. I'm not seeing it in the search on the Cincinnati Gives Challenge. Like, what's going on? And you'd be able to come here and say, oh, it actually looks like the discoverability for this page is turned off. So I could come here and say, I actually want to toggle it back on. So you can hide pages, you can show pages. And I would say that this option here to delete, I would say use that really, really, really sparingly. Because you have the ability to hide pages, you can even turn off donations for fundraiser pages. There really shouldn't be many scenarios where you full out delete a page unless you are like totally understanding that deleting it means that the historical record of any donations associated with that page are also gone. It doesn't delete the donations, obviously, but it would no longer show in the donation report that those donations came through that particular fundraiser because you deleted the fundraiser. So delete should be an option that we really don't leverage unless there's like a real reason that we don't want that there anymore. So that is peer-to-peer fundraising in a nutshell. And thank you for bearing with me. It looks like we have most of you are all still here, so I really appreciate it. The very last thing that I wanted to cover, it's going to take 2 minutes probably, is just talking about the prizes and rules for the Gives Challenge. So I called out earlier where we go on the website, both of them, to see the rules and the prizes. You'll see all of the prizes on this page. If you scroll down is where you're going to see like the challenge rules. Really would encourage you to read them because it talks about what are the eligibility requirements, what are the win limits for particular prizes, what happens if there's a tie. So everything about kind of the logistics of prizes lives down here in the rules section on both of the prize pages. Doesn't matter which site you're on, they're both here. So high level for prizes, tons of prizes happening for Cincinnati and Indianapolis Gives. That's actually one of my most exciting things that I get to work with both of those teams on is like, here's our lump sum of money. How do we make it like the most fun for nonprofits and donors throughout a 10-day challenge? So one of the biggest ones that we have each year is obviously we have grand prizes. And so those run for a full length of the challenge. So it's looking at the organizations, the top 5 with the most online dollars raised throughout the entire 10-day challenge. And just a general reminder that in order to win a grand prize, you have to have a minimum of 10 unique donors. We don't want to see a situation where, an organization has the most raised, but it's because one donor came in and made a giant gift. We're really incentivizing not only just dollars, but also just like activity and donor activity too. And then we have, like I said, a slew of, full length challenges, and then those that are just individual daily challenges. So if we look here, we can see, here's what's happening on December 2nd, December 3rd, December 4th. So I would highly recommend that if you haven't done so already, go in here, take a peek at what the daily prizes are, and then start to really like, change and weave in your campaign strategy to what kinds of prizes that you want to win and then on what day. And then last little nod about rules. So obviously, in order to even participate in the Gives Challenge, you have to be a 501c3 organization serving the greater Cincinnati or Indianapolis area. Organizations are not allowed to donate to themselves, so no using your organization credit card to donate back to your organization. This really should be a campaign where we're focused on like getting new actual donors that aren't our organization members to give to us, to be able to grow our fundraising capacity and grow our donor base. Reiterating that you must have at least 10 unique donors in order to win a grand prize. Offline donations, so if that's cash or check, do not count towards prizes and do not count towards leaderboards. And then last but not least, a little change that we made for this year, so wanted to highlight today, is that participating organizations are eligible to win one grand prize, one full-length bonus challenge, and then up to two daily bonus challenges. And so that's for just all general organizations. As a way to incentivize and to, I guess incentivize isn't the right word, but to celebrate those organizations who purchased a profile in the Guide to Giving for Indianapolis or Cincinnati Gives, those particular organizations are actually eligible to win one additional prize. So if you purchased a Guide to Giving, you can win three daily bonus challenges. If you did not purchase a Guide to Giving, you can win two daily bonus challenges. So that's just something that's new for this year. But it's also pretty clear when you go through and you look at the rules, but also look at the prizes themselves, like how many people can win. So here we can see that two organizations can win, and then there's one additional place for like a Giving Guide winner. So it doesn't take away at all from those of you who have not purchased a Guide to Giving. It just adds like one additional incentive for those of you who have. And then last but not least, before Q&A, for those of you who have been able to stick around, are resources and support. So can't reiterate enough how helpful the nonprofit toolkit is on both of the Gives Challenge websites. So we go into our resources menu. We can click on either, NPO FAQs, or we can go to the nonprofit toolkit. And here we have, FAQs. We have all of the important dates of things that have happened. We have the slides and the recordings from previous trainings. Right here is where the one from today will live. The Gives Challenge team has gone through and made some really incredible resources for you all to use. So we have our planning checklist, which we can download. I have a planning guide. I have email best practices. So there really shouldn't be any like need for you to reinvent the wheel, because the Gives Challenge teams have really thought through like what are the things that nonprofits need in order to like just really quickly get up to speed and be able to run a successful fundraising campaign without putting too much on their plates, because we know you all are doing incredible work in a really tough environment right now, and we want to, eliminate as many barriers to entry as possible. So we want to give to you so it's easier for you to be able to participate and do so successfully. Um, Scrolling down, 5 tips to success. So again, more kind of checklists you can download, resources on how to build your page, resources on matching grants and peer-to-peer fundraising, which we talked about, resources for how to spread the word. And then we have all of the graphics and downloads. And so that's the same thing on both of the Gives Challenge websites, but just slightly different and branded different depending on which you're participating in. And then the last thing that I wanted to touch on really, really quick was we talked about peer-to-peer fundraising today. And I talked to you about it from like you're an admin and I'm me perspective. Both of the websites also have a peer-to-peer fundraiser toolkit that is meant to be donor facing. It's meant to be supporter facing. So as you're thinking about, recruiting peer-to-peer fundraisers and being able to utilize that as a strategy for the upcoming campaign, This is public, this is a published page. You can copy this link and include it in your emails to your peer-to-peer fundraisers to say like, we would love to have you sign up. Click here to read more about it. Obviously put in some more motivational and like why you think that they'd be a great peer-to-peer fundraiser. But again, this is a public facing resource, which is very much meant to like walk a supporter through like, how do I create a peer-to-peer fundraiser page? So how do I create it? How do I tell my story? How do I spread the word? And then scroll down and it tells me as a user, how do I access and navigate my peer-to-peer fundraiser dashboard? So how do I get there? How do I customize my page? How do I publish my page? How do I configure my settings? What are some sample social media messages that I can share along with my peer-to-peer fundraiser page? So again, not wanting to make you all have more work on your plates to say, I can't manage peer-to-peer fundraising this year because I don't have time to like educate a group of people on how to do it successfully. Here you go. This page and toolkit is already available. Copy, paste it into an email, make it feel personable, send it along, and this gives them the tips that they need to have. Again, available on both of the Gives Challenge websites, branded slightly differently depending on which one it is. And then very, very last but not least is support. So where to find help. So nonprofit toolkit, excellent resource, nonprofit FAQs. And then we have a Mightycause support center. So if you're like me and you like hesitate from asking people questions until you have tried to find all of the possible answers to it, you'll love our support center. So you go to our support center, you can type in some keywords or a question, and it'll pop up with a ton of support articles that are attempting to answer your question. So that's great because those support articles have screenshot walkthroughs. Some of them have video tutorials. So really great, excellent resource. And then last but certainly not least is our Mightycause customer support team. So real live people behind our support center here and happy to help. We are available via email at support@mightycause.com. Our team is available Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. And you can also reach us by simply, if you notice, each page of the website has this like little question mark box that's right here. If you click on it, it's actually a smart support center, which I think is really, really cool. And so you'll notice I'm on this campaigns manager page. When I clicked on this, it automatically gave me suggested things to read about like, how do I manage my organization campaigns? How do I make a nonprofit fundraising page awesome? So it's attempting to answer my question before I even ask it. Based off the page it knows that I'm on, which is super cool. I can also type in to browse help topics if I want, or I can click on this little contact button, which then puts me into email conversation with the support team. So this, again, this little question mark, super helpful because it just gives you those automated kind of, here's how I'm trying to help based on your page type. You can type in and then you can contact as well. So next steps, if you haven't done so already, register to participate in the Gives Challenge. Registration closes end of day on the 24th, so get in there. If you're unsure of whether or not you're registered, but you have an organization page, something easy you can do, log into your organization page, access your organization dashboard, come here to overview, and you would see a little kind of pop-up here that told you if it looks like this, registration is now open for Cincinnati Gives Challenge. That means that I have not registered yet. If it's showing to me that your organization is approved to participate in the Cincinnati Gives Challenge, that lets me know that I'm approved. So that's your first kind of step to being like, I'm not really sure. Log into your page, check out your overview tab, and that's where you will see it. Second, confirm your fundraising goal. So spend a little bit of time thinking about, I don't really want to walk into this campaign passively. Am I looking for more dollars? Am I looking for new donors, more donors? Am I looking to expand my outreach? And then turn that into what tools can I use to help me get there? So secure your matching grants, recruit your peer-to-peer fundraisers, and last but not certainly not least is explore the Gives Challenge resources. And happy